Hello, and welcome to the Quietly Visible podcast. This is a podcast for introverted women who want to thrive as leaders and in life. And for those of you who are not introverted, who want to thrive as your authentic selves. I'm Carol Stewart. I'm the author of Quietly Visible and founder of Abounding Solutions. And my guest today is Dr. Manna Semby. And she's the author of The Perimenopause Broken Rung, The Hidden Threat to Women's Brains and Careers, which is due to be published in June. She's a former Goldman Sachs vice president turned naturopathic physician. She left Wall Street when conventional medicine couldn't help her children with autism, then discovered it was failing her, or too, during perimenopause. She's certified by the Menopause Society and the Institute for Functional Medicine, and she's on a mission to increase women in the C-suite from 29% to 50% by fixing the biology that pushes them out at their peak. And this is a topic that I'm excited to unpick because I see it time and time again myself. Women are leaving when they're at their peak. So hello and welcome.
Thank you, Carol. I am so glad to be here and having this conversation with you.
It's great to have you here. So before we start to unpick what's going on, tell us a bit more about who you are.
Yes, so I am an immigrant. I came to the US. I've now been here about 30 years,
Mhm.
and I came originally from India as a transfer student. And my career counselor told me, do not go to law school. If you are an immigrant and you always want to be able to pay your bills, you should do accounting. So I listened to him. I did that. I did my CPA. I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers. I worked at Goldman Sachs for 10 years. Um, and I had every ambition to stay at Goldman and go the whole route of managing director and partner. But life happens. And my children were diagnosed with autism when really young. I took a few years off from work to stay at home with them, help them. And I realized that our medicine had shortcomings where if they could not prescribe a pill, they had no treatment and no alternatives to help. Certainly, my children at the time. So I discovered something called naturopathic and functional medicine at the time, and I decided to go back to medical school to study that and make that my life. When I was at Goldman, I noticed that the analyst and associate class had plenty of women. But even the vice president class had a very good number of women. But at the managing director levels and the partner levels, there weren't that many women. And I wondered, where are the women going? And when I became a doctor and a clinician, and I had my own clinic, and I see all these women in their 40s and 50s coming to my clinic telling me their brain isn't working as it used to. And they are concerned that they will not be able to perform at the levels that they're used to performing. And they are feeling like they need to quit. And I was like, that's where the women were going.
Mm.
So, certainly, of course, there can be other reasons as well, but I feel that perimenopause is a very big, under-addressed challenge, health issue of our times. And it is time for us to educate our women so that every woman and also every man knows what the menopausal transition is, what are the potential impacts on women's personal and professional lives, and as a result, on the lives of teams at work, on families, on community at large. So my focus has really been helping midlife women achieve their personal and professional goals, if indeed they have these goals to reach the highest levels at work, then I want to be able to help them. If they want to do something else, if they want to quit and just travel or do whatever they want, I want them to be able to make a decision from a place of autonomy and not because they got forced into making the decision because their brain wasn't working so well or they didn't have the energy to do it anymore. So as long
Mm,
as women can make their decision with full health and autonomy, I'm behind it 100%. And I feel like too many women are are having to make decisions under duress.
mm, yeah. Oh, thank you for that. And that leads nicely into so when a woman is sort of approaching perimenopause or going through perimenopause, what are they may not even be aware that that is what is happening. So what are the sort of symptoms that they may experience and what do the symptoms look like?
Yeah, so this is one of the biggest challenges with perimenopause is
Mm,
that we think that perimenopause begins when your periods begin to get irregular. That is not the case. Perimenopause begins in the brain years before that.
mm,
And there is no clear indicator to a woman that perimenopause has begun. And often it's not just like a switch on and off. For a long time, your hormones just struggle, they fluctuate, right? And the hormone that goes missing first is progesterone, not estrogen. Because progesterone goes missing first, the earliest things that are impacted are your sleep. Your sleep, the architecture of sleep fragments. So your sleep becomes less deep, less sound. Um, you can have frequent wake ups at night, or you can wake up at 3 a.m. and struggle to go back to sleep,
mm,
or you sleep through the whole night and yet you don't feel rested because the sleep architecture has changed. So that's the number one thing that happens. The second thing that happens is you can have things like problems with word recall, problems with memory, cognition, those things can begin to happen. Like you're sitting in a meeting that you've run 100 times, and suddenly you're like, what is that word that I use every day? I know it's there and I can't think of it. Right? Or
mm,
what is the name of this person I need to call? I talk to them all the time. I can see their face in front of my eyes, but I can't think of their name. These kinds of things become more common.
mhm,
So, when a woman, typically in her 40s, begins to see this or begins to notice a change in how she's able to perform at work, that I would say is the clearest signal, even if her periods are regular, that her hormonal changes are underway and it's time to take action.
mm. And the thing is, many women can experience those symptoms that you've described and not associate it with a normal biological process, but think that there's something wrong with them, can't
That's
they?
the biggest challenge
Mm,
is because women in their 40s, right, we are doing so much. We have so much on our plate that it would be extremely reasonable for anyone to think that this is just life. I'm
mm,
just stressed. There is work stress, there is relationship stress, there is children stress, there is parent stress, there's world stress, all kinds of stress. So if I'm not sleeping well, of course, all this stuff is going on in my life. And that's where the education comes in. That
mm,
yes, all of that is true, and your hormones are shifting. And when your hormones are shifting, no matter how much we address the other stressors in your life, it's not going to make a difference until we address the hormones. Which is why one of the biggest challenges I feel that needs to be clarified in the world right now is, this thing called burnout, right? It is so prevalent, right? 60% of senior women are burnt out.
That's a
About
lot.
40%, yeah. And for about 40% of mid-level and entry-level women are burnt out. And in our work culture, we take that as a complete answer. You're burnt out. Okay, that's it. No, we have to say no to that. We have to explore where the burnout is coming from.
Mm,
Is it really all about project management and stress management? Or is there some biological process underway? How many of those 60% of the women that are burnt out are due to perimenopause or menopause? And we have no clue because we do
that's
not
interesting.
ask that question.
Mm,
We do not ask that
yeah.
question. We do not ask that question because one, we are uncomfortable. We don't want to know because then we might have to do something,
Mhm.
right? And also, there is this whole thing about privacy. Like, my health is my private thing. I don't want to talk to work about it. And certainly, there is also this concern about being blacklisted. There is a huge concern, especially with the competent senior woman. The more competent, the more senior she is, the less likely she is to say, I'm struggling with menopause, right? Because
Mm,
she has, all the progress has been hard won. She has been through many, many, many challenges to get to the place where she is. She's not going to jeopardize her future prospects by saying this stuff. So, even though now this woman has visibility and credibility and all of that, and she could make a difference for all the other women coming behind her, but her position is understandable, right? I understand her challenge. So, this thing that helps the individual woman kind of reduce friction and get her promotion and keep on rising to higher and higher levels, great. But because we don't speak up, even when we have the big phone, the megaphone,
mhm.
then we, as a class, as a group, as a demographic, we lose that opportunity to say something which is important. So I think in the world today, there's a lot of discussion on this topic, and it is being more and more normalized. Companies are beginning to have this conversation.
Mm.
So my hope is that in the next few short years, we are able to make a significant difference such that we can increase the number of women, the percentage of women from 29% to closer to 50.
Yeah. And so, in your experience and the women that you've worked with who are experiencing this, what are they doing? So, yes, just talk a bit about what you're seeing.
I have there are women, of course, that are very savvy, that
Mm,
are anticipating this change coming and are on top of it and getting, whether it's hormone replacement therapy or whether it's making sure their diet and lifestyle is good and nutrition is good and sleep is good. So they know all the variables and they're acting on those. And yet, at the same time, there are many women, many very well qualified, well positioned, well credentialed women that are saying things like, I want to stay natural. I want to use food as medicine. I don't really want to take hormones. And I was like, the miseducation of women is complete, you know.
mm,
And I feel like when women, very educated and qualified women, are not willing to look into the science of what the menopausal transition really is, what a hot flash really means, it's not just a nuisance. It has real implications for your heart health and for your brain health. But in the absence of knowing that, what's to stop a woman from saying, I just have like 5 or 6 hot flashes a day. I can live through them. It's not such a big deal. Who's going to educate those women and tell them, please know that each hot flash is raising your blood pressure potentially by 5 to 6 millimeters of mercury and increasing your heart rate by about 20%, especially at night when you're supposed to have this rest for your heart, right? This holiday where your heart rate is at its lowest in the 24-hour period. Your heart rate is spiking. So you are having these heart events several times a night, and these might not even wake you up, so you don't know you're having them. And these events can also be correlated with reduced perfusion in certain areas of the brain. And women still die the most from heart disease, right?
wow.
And women have the most strokes in the middle cerebral artery, which is one of the areas which gets less perfusion when this whole thing is happening in the body. But if we don't make this known to women, then it's things like, oh, women have had menopause forever. Why are we now medicalizing menopause? Or why are we making this such a big deal when it doesn't need to be? Like, why are we? So, this whole thing about talking about women's stuff, this
Hmm.
discomfort about the inner workings of female physiology, it all plays into this reluctance to talk about a biological change that has a real impact on women's income, on their wealth, on their impact, on their legacy. And yet we think like, do we really need to talk about that? You know?
Mm. No, that is very interesting because I didn't myself, I didn't know, when having those hot flashes, the biological effects of what is going on. So no, no, that is really interesting to know that and the correlation between that and the heart rate and this is all new knowledge to me. So thank you. Mm,
You're welcome.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and so it's yeah. So thank you for educating me. And so but understanding what is going on, how does that help the people that you work with once they
Yeah. If
understand
women
what is
and
going on biologically? Mm,
yes, so this is just about the hot flash, and the hot flashes is a one kind of symptom, vasomotor symptom, right? This is a symptom that most women have at least heard of, even if they have not
mm,
experienced it. This symptom is also the butt of many jokes. It's like, okay, I'm gonna have this is a hot flash, this is how it is. Um, so that's one thing, but there are so many other symptoms that don't get airtime that women don't know are related to this, right?
mm,
Um, Difficulty sleeping, right? Difficulty with sleep. A lot of women have this trouble, and yet they don't correlate. They don't know that this could be just a deficiency of progesterone in their body. This could be a deficiency of estrogen in their body. So, not being able to sleep well, right? Not only over days and weeks and months and years, compounds and has an impact on your mood, on cognition, on real brain health, that this can lead to
mm,
formation of plaque in the brain. Just a couple nights of poor sleep can there is evidence that it'll increase plaque in your brain. Of course, if you're able to then get good sleep, it also reverses. But our health is such a dynamic response to what is happening day to day and moment by moment in our body that
mm,
it's really important for women to understand what menopause really is. And I feel
mm,
that there is so much baggage around this word of menopause that it does a disservice. Like menopause, what does it really even mean?
mm,
Menopause, okay. Technically, it means a pause in your monthly cycle, right? But there's no pause. It's a complete cessation of the monthly cycle. And what it really is ovarian failure.
mm.
What
Yeah.
menopause technically is ovarian failure at midlife. A very important organ in your body is predictably going to fail at midlife with downstream consequences for every organ system in your body, for your heart, for your brain, for your bones, right? When you go 3 months without a period, you have the fastest rate of bone loss. And
Oh,
this is
wow.
normally during perimenopause. And I don't know how it is in London with the NHS, but in the US generally, insurance doesn't cover payment for a DEXA scan, which is how you measure bone density, until the age of 65, which is really 20 years after a period of fast
Mm,
bone loss. So, of course, we expect to find osteoporosis, right?
mm,
And so, just knowing what are the impacts, what are all the health impacts of the failing of your ovaries on your heart, your brain, your bones, on your sexuality, on your vulvovaginal region. You lose elasticity, you lose tissue thickness, you lose the pH, you become more prone to UTIs, which can lead to sepsis and death. Changes in mood, changes in just your personality, even. So
mm,
many women say they don't feel like themselves. So, on the other hand, then there is a whole contingent that says women have always had menopause. Why do we now make a big deal? but women haven't been carrying all these burdens. We, unfortunately or fortunately, we were playing a smaller role in the world previously. We had to fight for our right to play the role that we want to play because we can play a much bigger role. Even now, we're not where we
Mhm.
can be, right? But now we are doing many more things. And so there is thing, oh, perhaps now we live in some sort of an equal world, but it's not an equal world, right? So women are now dealing with many more challenges than our mothers and our grandmothers did. So the levels of stressors in our lives are higher by choice. Like we want to be part of all this stuff, right? And life, just world in the 21st century is stressful. And then we also live in an increasingly toxic environment. Environmental toxins are everywhere, which have a real impact on our health. And then there's a sociocultural stress, which is everywhere, permeates everything. So there's a lot of stressors, and everything combines to make the situation what it is. Also, maybe my mother did struggle through menopause and she didn't feel she could say it. How do I know?
Mhm.
My
Yeah.
maybe my grandmother had a really difficult time with menopause.
Yeah, because the thing is,
They didn't have the
it's not something that was
permission.
talked about, was it?
They
Yeah.
did not have the permission to talk about
Hmm.
this, right? My mother didn't talk to me about it. We are four sisters. Nobody was told.
Mm.
I just wonder, like, did my mom think that we would all get to this stage and we would just be like, oh, this is just how it is, and we just keep going on with our lives? Like, no. But it's also different because each generation now does more, right? The Gen X woman certainly isn't gonna sit back and do nothing. She's gonna be loud. And the difference you're seeing in the world is because she is loud
Mm.
and she wants things, as
Yeah.
I
Yeah, because
agree
we're
with her
seeing a
she
lot
should.
more, seeing the topic being talked about a lot more here in the UK, where places are, it's becoming part of policy, you
Yeah.
know, how to deal with menopause is becoming part of policy. Um, it's gone are the days where it's just, oh, you giving someone a fan to put on the desk. They're
Yeah.
actually doing more about it, but I think there's still a long way to go.
Still a long ways to go. And the US is behind. We are behind by about 10 years. And yet, legislation has begun to move. There are
Hmm.
19 states that have some sort of legislation underway. And, whether it's at a state level or a city level, or whether it's just about insurance coverage or what, so different levels of legislation. But in the last year or two, there has been an increase, a significant increase in the way things are moving in the US as well. So it's promising, but there's always headwinds, right? So we have to account for that.
Yeah. And what you as you're talking, I'm thinking about my own personal experience, and having gone through sort of in my 40s, where I had fibroids as well.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
and with that came sort of very, very heavy periods and just constantly feeling tired, but putting it down to I had a demanding job. Um and not thinking, all of it was related to going through.
Hormones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
this is the thing. I feel like, just last week, I delivered a talk at UCSD, University of California at San Diego, to the students, and most of them were undergrad students. They were first year, second year, third year students, and they invited me to come and talk to them. And the topic that I normally talk about is perimenopause and brain health. That's my jam. And I was very impressed that these 18 to 20-year-olds are inviting me to come and talk to them about this. And after I finished what I had to say, this one woman asked, how can we prepare? I'm like, you guys are so ahead of me and ahead of my whole generation because we only found out when we got here, right? I didn't know before. But the thing to understand is that women's health Women's health is so misunderstood. Women's hormonal health, especially. And we are hormonal beings. There's no getting away from it. Some people think that calling a woman hormonal is like a bad thing. I'm like, I wear it as a badge. Yes, I'm a hormonal being, right? When my hormones are balanced, I am being and doing the best that I can, right? So I was just telling them that seeing menstruation, and first of all, getting comfortable with the word menstruation. Okay, it's a thing, and the world would not exist without it, right? So, seeing and understanding menstruation as the fifth vital sign after your blood pressure and your heart rate and temperature and respiration rate, menstruation for women is the fifth vital sign. Right from the beginning of your life, if your menstruation is not um, rough of more or less every 28 days. If it's not predictable, if it's
Mm.
not regular, if it's painful, if it brings any discomfort, something needs to be investigated and found out right away without putting a patch on it, without putting you in oral contraceptives or some sort of birth control to artificially regulate your hormones, because that thing is going to come and bite you at some point.
Mm.
We still don't fully understand the intricacies of a woman's hormonal system right from puberty onwards, right? And so we only are now beginning to get a full understanding of what PCOS is. Even now, endometriosis is hard to diagnose, difficult. Women spend 10 years struggling with it. Adenomyosis and other conditions that women struggle with. I just feel that women have to just kind of not take no for an answer. If your doctor
Yeah.
cannot help you, find another doctor. Do your research. So many resources are now in the world today to help you get better educated, and ask better questions. Find the right person to work with. So, right from the beginning, taking care of ownership of your hormonal health and taking care of it so that this thing is coming some point down the path. And not just this, like pregnancy.
Hmm.
And also remember one thing, that perimenopause isn't happening in a rested and resourced body. It's happening in a body which has gone through several pregnancies, carried multiple human beings through long gestation periods, and then, given birth to them. So the body has been through a lot already. And then comes the chaos of perimenopause
Hmm.
and menopause. And then we are dealing with this world while we're dealing with our body, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like the women, we need to like be out there for each other, understand and support, and 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 get the support from all the different systems that exist in our society.
Yeah. And you just, as you were speaking there, you just took me back to my situation, um when I was having heavy periods, and the doctor giving me the contraceptive injection, because they said, well, that will, in a lot of cases, it stops the periods.
Yeah.
Um, and but it had the opposite effect on me, and
Mm.
it was like having floods. And but at the time, I didn't have the knowledge or the awareness to challenge that or question
Right.
that.
Right. So we have already paid the dues. We've already been through that. We've already
Hmm.
struggled. We've had our struggles and all that. But what we can do is now share our stories, right? One of the
Hmm.
things that I told these undergrads at UCSD was speak to the older women in your life. They have stories
Hmm.
to tell you.
Yeah.
Speak to them, ask them what their challenges have been and learn from them, and chart a path that is, trailblazing. So
Hmm.
I think we will see a lot of that.
Yeah. And so what was your experience like?
Yeah, so my period was a charm.
Hmm.
Regular, predictable, not painful, perfect. My pregnancies were easy. Um, I mean, I did end up using the epidural, even though I did not want to. But the doctor was just like, "You're gonna do this, and I'm gonna break the membrane, and you're gonna have to do this." So, I feel like that was a disservice done to me. Um, But the experience of perimenopause and menopause, like, I was in medical school at the time when I was going through perimenopause, and I didn't put two and two together. I just thought,
Mm.
I've moved cross country. I have two special needs teenagers. I'm a single mom. I'm in medical school. How can I not be stressed? Of course, I'm stressed. I only learned that perimenopause is a brain event after I had already gone through menopause and I was so burnt out and I didn't even know that it was due to perimenopause and menopause and of course other factors too. But I didn't know that until I address this hormonally the right way that I will not feel myself.
Mm.
No amount of time off from work was going to do it for me. I ended up quitting my first job as a doctor because I thought I was just burnt out from the stress. It was only later I found out that's, yes, there is stress and there is another just giant thing called menopause. So it's been quite a learning for me in the last few years. Like, man, this was going to happen to me and my mom didn't say a word. Is this normal? Is this just me or is this other women too? And then I found out that it's many women. It's
Mm.
not every woman. I mean, amazingly, there are like 15 to 20% of women that have almost no symptoms or so mild that they don't even know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But the hot flashes were a killer for me. Oh man, I was like, wow, wow, my body is doing something so unbelievable. Like this hot flash that made me feel my body was like having this temperature spike of like 5 degrees in literally 10 seconds.
Mm.
And, several times a day, and certainly at night, this thing was happening. And the joint pains that appeared overnight, I'm having this pain in my knees. I'm not even 50, and I'm going up and down the stairs and I'm complaining of knee pain. Like my grandfather used to do that. This is me. So it was a very interesting, like, is this really happening kind of experience for me.
Mhm.
But then I learned about the different kinds of dosing of hormones and mixing and matching and finding what is right for me. And then finally, like, oh, there is life after, and
Mm.
you can get to, I don't think I have never gotten back to the level of energy that I had in my 30s. And I don't know if anybody does. Or maybe that if I had been proactive, if I had known all this in perimenopause and had addressed it right from the get-go, maybe I would be close to my baseline.
Mhm.
But I think I'm like 85% there. But I know women who are at 50% of their capacity and have accepted that.
Yeah.
And I was like, how are you going to just live the rest of your life at 50%? It's like, I don't know if there's a choice. I'm like, there really is. But there's also this
And what is that choice?
the
What choices
choice to
to, yeah, to,
um
yeah, so then that they're
yeah.
not operating at 50% of their energy. Sort of
uh,
choices are there?
yes, to talk to somebody, to learn what menopause is,
Mm.
and to understand what hormones do for us and how important they are, and how a woman's brain cannot function fully unless you have estrogen in your brain. It just
Yeah.
cannot. When women go through menopause, you would think that estrogen receptors shrink and go away because estrogen is going away, but the opposite happens. The number of estrogen receptors increase dramatically because they're trying to hold on to any molecule of estrogen they can find. It is that critical. It is
Mm.
that critical.
Yeah.
So, understanding how important those hormones are for us and getting those back into our body.
Mhm.
And
And
I,
how
I
can
tell
this
you,
be done?
huh? I'm sorry.
What ways can this
Oh,
be
it can be
done?
done in many different ways. You can generally, estrogen is administered through the skin, so either through a patch or a gel or a cream.
Mhm.
Progesterone is often administered orally. You take it, as a capsule. It's also available as a cream, depending on what we are using it for. There's also testosterone and other things. So you really working with somebody who knows, who has experience working with women, and getting you the help that would make a difference. And I often say to women, do a 3 to 6 month trial. If you're
Hmm.
skeptical, do a trial of 3 to 6 months, do a before and after, then make the decision for yourself.
Hmm. Yeah. And is this in terms of what you're talking about, is that HRT you're talking about, like hormone replacement? Um,
Yes, that is
yeah.
what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And that in itself, over the years has carried quite a lot of stigma that's been
Again,
associated with
I'm
it.
telling you, that is
Mm.
part of the miseducation of women.
Hmm.
If women are not educated, they don't ask for their rights. They are just doing their own struggle. Let them do it, like let's just,
Yeah.
you know. So that's why women need to be in positions of decision making for women. Women
Hmm.
need to make decisions for women. I want to make decisions for myself, right? And and only a woman knows what's happening in a woman's body. And of course, there are many doctors who are men who understand and they are allies. And of course, I trust them. But yes, so working with, you know, collaborating with other human beings who understand and who want to help is the way
Hmm.
to go. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about your book.
So my book has had a um, change of incarnation.
Hmm.
It has had a change of name. My book is now called It's Not Burnout:
Mm.
How Perimenopause is Impacting Your Brain and Career. Because of this whole thing, because of this data that we have about burnout, and we think burnout is a complete explanation, and we are not asking how many of the 60% women that are burnt out is it coming from perimenopause. So the book is It's Not Burnout: How Perimenopause is Impacting Your Brain and Career and What to Do About It. And I part one is all about the situation at hand, and part of it is the discussion we've had today.
Hmm.
So I have worked very hard to curb my anger and my rage and my ranting and make it such like, yes, I'm angry about how the heck women are in this position, and you should be too. But I'm not just angry. I'm also like, okay, this is what we need to do, right? This is the disservice that has been done to women, but fine, this is where we are. The problem is not of our own making. We didn't create the problem, but the solution is up to us, right? We get to fix it. We get to do something about it. So, part two is all about educating women about what you must know about your health. Do not outsource it to your doctor. You
Hmm.
own your health. You own your body. It is your job to know about your body, not your doctor's. It is not the doctor's job to keep you healthy. It is your job to keep you healthy. And number one thing in that is to know about your body, especially about the whole hormonal system and the impact it has on your brain and body. And part three is then, okay, now you know about your body. What can you do? So there's everything about HRT, everything about non-hormonal options. And also, it's very much about taking care of the brain first. Everything starts with the brain and ends with the brain. If your brain is healthy, you are healthy for a long time. If your brain is not healthy, you have brain fog and cognition and memory problems, well, then everything is going to go downhill faster, right?
Yeah.
So that is what my book is about, and I'm very excited to get it out into the world.
It sounds very interesting, and I can tell this is a topic that you are passionate about. It comes across in how you speak about it. So thank you for sharing with us. And if people want to get the book, they want to find out more about you, where's the best place for them to go?
Yes, the best place to find me is on my website, and my website is arunamed.com. And perhaps you'll add it in the show notes,
Yes,
and I
yes,
will
we'll
send
put
you
the link in the
the
show
the name of
notes.
the website.
Yeah.
It's simply arunamed.com. But the best place to get it will be in the show notes. And on my website, you'll be able to find information about the book and my
Mhm.
other work as well.
Yeah, so thank you. This has been an interesting conversation. It's a conversation that is very much needed. and pretty adamant met you some years ago when I was at that stage. And listeners, do go and check
It's
out.
never too late.
Mhm.
I tell women there is no such thing as too late. If you didn't start then, the next best opportunity, the next best time is today.
Yeah, but I do think it's important that we educate and increase an awareness, but particularly with younger women who are sort of approaching perimenopause as well, so that
Yes,
they can know what to expect. Because, like you said, a lot of conversations like this, there's not enough of them.
yes.
Talking about the change, from puberty to um, sort of going through the menstrual cycle, through perimenopause and menopause. Women go through different stages, and the changes that happen to our body, our biological systems. It's like they're taboo subjects often. We don't talk about
Yeah,
them, but they're just
right.
naturally everyday occurrences that happen to us.
Yes, and that's why saying the word menstruation and
Hmm.
knowing the critical importance of that, it helps us get over our own um, hesitation, because
Hmm.
we've been taught that over a long time, right?
Yeah.
So it'll happen little by little, but takes effort.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you for making the effort. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you. Do go and buy her book, listeners. Go and check out her website, because it's a message that needs to be heard far and wide.
Thank you
And
so much, Carol.
yes, and do share this episode as well, because there are so many women who will benefit from hearing what Manna's got to say. So thank you for listening. And if you are wanting to increase your confidence, influence, and impact, if you haven't completed the free assessment on my website, go to aboundingsolutions.com. Under the free resources, there's an assessment there that you can complete that will give you ideas about areas that you can focus on. And so until the next time, bye.